Well, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start. And again, welcome to the County of Monterey Planning Commission meeting of June 25th, 2025. And with that, can we please have roll call?
Commissioner Mendoza?
Here.
Commissioner Hartzell?
Here.
Commissioner Gomez?
He called me, he said he wasn't going to be here today.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Work?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Commissioner Monsalve?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Deal?
Here.
Commissioner Getzelman and Commissioner Gomez are not here today. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, would Commissioner Monsalve please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Honored to.
Thank you, Commissioner Monsalve. Yes, I skipped. And then this would be the time to let us, the public know how they can communicate with the commission via Zoom or via emails.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. If you are joining us remotely, we welcome your participation as well as those who are here in chambers during public comment for the meeting or for any item in the meeting. If you're joining remotely, you can do so by raising your hand, by pressing the icon button. There we go. For folks who have their screen, the instructions are now on the screen. You can raise and lower your hand by pressing the icon button, the hand icon button under reactions at the bottom of your screen. If you're on a mobile or land phone line, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9. Another way to participate is by submitting comments to pchearingcomments@countyofmonterey.gov email during the hearing. We do monitor that during the hearing, though now that we have begun, while we do our best, we can't guarantee that we capture everything via email. We also, once it is public comment and you are acknowledged by the chair as your turn to speak during public comment, if you are joining remotely, to mute and unmute via the Zoom platform, you can press the microphone button at the bottom of the screen, and to mute or unmute on your phone, you can press *6. We are also happy to continue our live translation pilot of Wordly. To join Wordly for translation into other languages other than English, you can scan the QR code or join via the web page that's at the bottom left of the slide. And if we could have the Spanish language slide show as well, that would be great for anyone joining us who may be speaking a different language. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we move on to public comments, and this is a time set aside for the public to comment on a matter that is not on the agenda, and you have 3 minutes. So if there's anybody in the chambers, or if there's any, this would be the time for you to come up and would have 3 minutes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda. Seeing no one coming up to the podium, then do we have anyone on Zoom or any emails?
There are no additional emails or hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. This would be now the next item on the agenda, which is agenda additions, deletions, and corrections. And for this particular item, we are going to move the agenda setup. And so instead of hearing item number 2 first, we're going to hear item number 1, and then we're going to switch item number 2 with item number 3. So item number 3, PLN 220229, is going to be item number 2, and number 2, PLN 240187, becomes item number 3 for the record. And are there any other additions, deletions, and corrections?
For the record, we received and distributed additional correspondence for agenda item number 1, PLN 240178.
Thank you. And do we have that in the back table? Thank you. And I guess that the nod of the head means yes, there are items back on the table for the record. And so with that, we move on to the next item on the agenda would be commissioner comments, requests, and referrals. So this is the time set aside for the commissioners to comment, request, or refer a matter that is on or not on the agenda. Commissioners. Commissioner Roberts.
I just want to make my plea again for LUAC members. If any members of the public are listening, or obviously anyone here in the chambers, we are constantly looking for members of the public to serve on local land use advisory committees, and they represent all areas of the county. For me in particular, I am the liaison for the Toro LUAC, which is a little bit lower on numbers than normal, and the Monterey Peninsula LUAC, which is really low on numbers and to the point that they aren't able to meet and make a quorum and give their opinions on important projects in their neighborhoods. And one of the questions that I get kind of consistently when I ask people if they're interested is, well, I don't have any experience. Do I need experience? To everyone, you do not need experience. Your experience is your lived experience in your neighborhoods and your opinion about, what your neighborhoods should look like. And those opinions and feedback are really important to us as planning commissioners. And again, the time commitment is very limited, generally twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, maybe 0 projects in the year. But the feedback provided is always very, very important to the Planning Commission. And so if anyone is interested in the Planning Commission, in a Land Use Advisory Committee, reach out to one of us, reach out to staff. It's a very important role and with relatively limited time commitment.
Sorry, any other commissioners? Commissioner Work?
Thank you. I would like to second Mrs. Roberts' request. South County could use members also. And I'd also like to just comment on something we should consider looking at projects in the rural areas. We were just without power for 4 days. PG&E said it was because of high heat and wind. And we had a very cool 4 days, thank goodness, and no wind. And so I was talking to my daughter about it, and she works for an underground utility company, and they deal a lot with PG&E, and they said that this is going to be normal, the new normal. So I think we need to keep that in mind when we look at projects that are in the rural, remote areas, that there are going to be possibilities of being without power for extended time. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioners Work. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Mendoza?
Yes. One comment that I have here, I had brought up in the past in reference to North Monterey County, a lot of illegal vending still continues. It just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse in our area, especially off the Salinas Road where there are railroad stations which is 490 Salinas Road, it's a constant thing. We started with one catering truck, now there's 3 catering trucks. Now we have a swap meet going on. There's probably 6, 7 vendors out there, Saturday and Sunday. And I think that we need to do a better job. Obviously, if I know part of it, or what we do is land use or what have you, and I was reminded that in the past, but I don't think that a railroad station land use is a swap meet or a place for everybody to put up, catering trucks or pop-up tents and start selling food from that manner. It's unsafe. You have cars coming in and out. When I drove by there on Sunday, there must have been 40 cars out there. And they're getting in and out of Salinas Road, which is not designed for that. We don't have restroom facilities. We don't have wash stations out there. We don't have any type of infrastructure that will allow that type of business. But I keep on bringing it up, and I know for a fact it does not fall on deaf ears because we have even brought it up on the agendas in the past. But we need to find a better way to deal with it, because I know that it's not just North Monterey County problem, it's a throughout the county problem. And the more that it gets allowed to happen, it just gets worse and worse and worse as people think it's okay, well, he did it, well, I'm gonna do it. And then before you know, you have 30 people out there doing it. You have vendors with those colored umbrellas roasting corn in the middle of fire season. I mean, what are we waiting for a big catastrophe to happen? Okay, well, we should have done that. Well, we should have done that, might be a little too late. So I don't know. I don't have an idea. I'm not an expert when it comes to addressing those type of issues, but I just thought that I would bring it up and see if together we can somehow come up with a recommendation to the supervisors for additional funding to whatever appropriate parties need the money, so we can have more code enforcement and address it. The only way you're going to address that is throwing money at it and having a plan, because there's no other way. I mean, obviously what we have in place is not working. If not, it wouldn't be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I thought I'd bring it up, and somehow we can put our minds together. There's 8 of us today, so and we can make a recommendation to see how we can better address it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mendoza. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you. I guess on that note, I was wondering, maybe could we request code enforcement to come forward at another meeting so that we could ask questions and get direct answers, how they handle these things, what are their time constraints, what are they dealing with out in the wild on a day-to-day basis, and why these things aren't being addressed, just so we can get an answer directly from them. I don't know if that's a possibility.
So the commission actually has a referral around this item in February earlier of this year. I know we had our environmental health and we had our team come and present. Out of that came the recommendation that staff present to the Board of Supervisors. That presentation has not happened. And what I will do is follow up with our staff. It's really environmental health and more of a code compliance issue. And so that conversation has not, from the Planning Commission to the Board of Supervisors, has not yet happened. So what I will do is if it works for the commission, I'd like to follow up with staff to see when that presentation can get scheduled to the Board of Supervisor, and then advise the Planning Commission, so that if at that time, that might be the right time then for the Planning Commission, if you wish to make kind of a formal recommendation request to the Board of Supervisors, because it really is within the purview of the Board of Supervisors for resources and other related to interdepartmental coordination and enforcement. So if that works, what I will do is follow up and report back on, we will get that scheduled with environmental health, confirm when that can be scheduled at the board.
Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. Yeah, in general, that works, but it's inadequately urgent. I mean, we've waited since February. So unless we can do that in a more immediate sense, I would strongly suggest we start asking individuals to go under their individual abilities and rights and talk to the Board of Supervisors directly about why we can't get a response and why we can't get a timely response through HCD. So if we can't have it at the next meeting, I think we need to take some more significant urgent action, and if we can't get it to the Board of Supervisors within the agenda time period, I think we need to, again, add our voices for the concern about a growing and important public safety and health issue. This is not one that can wind its way through the process and have meetings and discuss when we can get reports. This is, let's get it to the board now. We felt that urgency in February, and I certainly, listening to my colleagues, feel that urgency even more now. So whatever we need to do to jumpstart and facilitate getting that acted on immediately, I would be in favor of us doing.
Thank you, Commissioner Dill. Commissioner Mendoza?
One other thing I'm going to add to that, being that it's the station that, the railroad station, obviously, so that's got to be, they must have a land use permit to do what they do as a railroad station. So if the land use is not to have a swap meet, to not have catering trucks, go red tag them or whatever we need to do. And that will put an urgency on them to address the problem. I don't know if it's, I'm speaking out of place or what have you, but if it's a land use, okay, you're allowed to use this as a railroad station and anything that has to do with that. Now all of a sudden you have catering trucks, you have illegal vendors, you have all these other things going on. How is that addressed through the county? Could people just do that? Like, can I decide if I have my own personal business? Okay, now I want to start selling. Well, let's just take it out of context. I want to start selling cannabis. You know, they do it. You know, Javier, you're going to get red tags because you can't do that. That's not a use that is allowed for you. So they're just allowed to use that as a railroad station. Then at that point, well, wait a minute, you have all these other activities going on. How do we address that?
Thank you, Commissioner Mendoza. Any other commissioners? Yes, and because that's an issue that we've been talking about for a while, and if I may request that maybe we have 2 presentations throughout the year, maybe 6 months apart, whatever departments are in charge of that, and maybe at the next meeting or the following meeting to come up with a couple of dates throughout the years, throughout each year, that we may be able to have a presentation from the different departments, or, you know, whoever needs to come and make a 10-15-minute presentation, because I think we can bring this issue, but if we don't put it on the agenda, then it's just going to be brought, again, talked about. So if I am requesting that we have maybe a couple of meetings, at least to start throughout the year, that whoever's in charge to come and say, this is what we've been doing, this is what's happening throughout the county. I'm sure there's enforcement. And the other piece that I think that we need to look at is probably contract issues. People who are hired based on particular contracts and particular job requirements. And so I'm not sure if those can be worked with through contract in order for those individuals that are working from 8 to 5 that we've spoken about in the past. You know, would they be able to change one of those days, like on a Fridays, or maybe change, not necessarily every week, but maybe once a month or so, that they might be able to work instead of an 8 to 5. I'm assuming it's an 8 to 5 a day on Friday, every day, but if they would be able to change from a later time, because that's when the people are out there on Fridays. And also if maybe they might be able to use Saturday instead of a regular day, not every single week, but, or maybe different people. I don't know how many people work out there. And I know it becomes a little dangerous also because things could escalate and then people could get hurt. So we got to look at all those pieces. We got to look at contracts and all of that. But I am requesting at least a couple of days, whatever days that we may think are more important throughout the year, to have whoever coming and making a presentation say, this is what we've been doing. We've been confiscating the equipment or whatever that is if people do not have the proper permitting. Anyways, that's my 5 cents.
If I may, through the chair, I'm going to respectfully request that we not, if the priorities and resources allocated toward code enforcement is really directed through the board and through the director. It's not something really that we as the planning unit have any direct control over, and I would respectfully request, I don't know that it's effective to continue to bring reports back as much as bring the strong request forward. I hear the urgency. I can tell you there's no board agenda time through the end of August. They're fully booked because they go on break. So in terms of if the commission itself wants to do something more immediate and more direct, I think I might respectfully request that perhaps that happen through you directly with your individual supervisors, or otherwise to see how that conversation could start. But I'd like to just put a little different focus. I can follow up and work with, again, it's environmental health. It's outside of what I did here is for the 490 Salinas Road at that railroad station. I will specifically flag that. We have staff from environmental health who are on our meeting today. So I will flag that both for our HCD code enforcement and for environmental health, that specific location, if there isn't already some form of formal action on it, to follow up with that. And then I will also flag with, it's really kind of led by environmental health to get that presentation to the board. So again, we have staff from environmental health on here who I hope are taking notes, and I can follow up to request that they please get that scheduled.
Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and I do understand that everything is not under our purview. I mean, we do get that. The difficulty here is that the Planning Commission made an urgent request, and it didn't go forward urgently in any manner whatsoever. So it occurs to me that the difficulty with speaking to our individual supervisors is it doesn't carry the kind of weight that we might prefer. What if we were to put together or to have some commissioners write a letter and come back and then take that letter and vote on it so that we could go forward with the whole commission, and we could do that in very short order. So perhaps the chair might consider, I think a lot of good opinions have come forward, perhaps the chair would support a small group of people from the commission below the quorum, providing us with a draft letter that we could then vote on as a formal action of the committee and have that letter forwarded to the supervisors, which wouldn't require agenda time. It would certainly carry more weight than just going and, I mean, I've already spoken with my supervisor. She knows about this issue from, and I know Commissioner Hartzell has too. She knows about it, but I'm looking for weight, and the fact that we have put forward something that's an urgent health and safety issue, particularly peaking in the summertime, put forward in February, hasn't gone anywhere yet, is unacceptable to me. So I'm looking for ways to find the Planning Commission's best lever to try to make a difference. And my suggestion, Mr. Chair, is perhaps we could ask some members most closely involved with this to draft a letter that we could then put on our agenda for actually voting on as a commission to add weight to those concerns.
Thank you. And would we do it now, or we would, in terms of asking 2 or 3 commissioners that would like to sit down and take, form that small 2 or 3 different commissioners to work on it, because then it's just going to get lost, I think.
I don't know that this, excuse me, Mr. Chair. I don't know that this requires the involvement of staff, except when the letter comes forward, if the commission has asked that it be placed on the next agenda, that it be done, because our agendas are not full. we can afford to consider and vote on something in the course of our day. I don't think this is going to be a huge time-consuming item, nor do I believe it's going to require a lot of staff time. But I think the referral is, let's ask, perhaps Commissioner Mendoza and Commissioner Shaw seem to be the ones that have spoken most openly, but anybody else that might be interested, perhaps yourself, would like to get together and draft a letter and bring it back to us, and you can give it to the commission when you're finished, and we'll get it immediately on the next agenda that is appropriate after that, and we can go from there. I mean, I don't think it would impinge on staff resources much beyond the very most administrative that way. No, I don't know.
So Commissioner Mendoza and Commissioner Shaw, would you be willing to take that up? I'm sorry?
And Chair Gonzalez?
Okay, Chair Gonzalez, that's fine. So the three of us can look at that. My only thing is that as far as safety is concerned and fire issues are concerned, I think those are issues that are important that we look at whenever we're looking at planning, because we always ask the fire department to look at particular developments. And so I would like to, at least even if it's once a year, to get a report to see if things have changed. Because if, we can write the letter, but unless I know that when I was a principal and administrator, in order for things to get done, I would always follow up with people to find out where we were with certain particular things, because if not, if you just kind of let it go, and you may have the best people helping you, but if you're not following along, you're not sending emails, you're not talking to people, even in passing, then sometimes things fall through the cracks. So for me, I'd like to at least see whether it's just a 10-minute presentation, a 5-minute follow-up, or even if it's a written report once a year that would say we've changed, this, or well, the Board of Supervisors hasn't really want to make these changes, or the union contract doesn't allow us to make these changes, and the staff working within the union, there's no agreement with that, so we really can't go beyond certain days. At least, and it doesn't have to be huge, at least just to know, like, is this moving, or if it's not moving. But anyways, that's, if we can at least have once a year, even if it's a brief written report, it doesn't have to be a presentation, or if it's a 10, 15-minute presentation, but somebody at the top that we might be able to ask questions, say, we have 15 minutes, that's it.
If I may, through the chair. One, I did want to request county council. I have a question. For this letter, can the commission just convene and have individual members do it, or would it be appropriate to establish an ad hoc committee specifically for developing this letter? I just want to make sure we follow proper procedure.
Yeah, and I'm double checking on that right now. I think if it's just for one letter, I think they can meet and take care of it. But it sounds like this may be an ongoing issue, so it's something to consider for an ad hoc if that's the case. For a one-off letter, though, I don't think it's necessary.
Great, thank you. And if I may, through the chair, one additional item. So as a part of, this item related to unpermitted food vendors, it is referral number 24.8 for the Planning Commission. And so what I'm hearing based on today is that I can kind of amend and update that referral. I think that would be the appropriate referral to track and kind of amend through this, the request so that the commission will put together a letter to the Board of Supervisors and provide that to staff. We will put it on the next available Planning Commission for its consideration when you follow up with us. We will clarify that we will follow up with staff regarding 490 Salinas Road, in particular with the environmental health as well as code compliance for that particular location, with the request that if it is in violation of underlying land use, that at least a formal inquiry and or violation be placed there to help get a handle on that particular location. We also heard that we will follow up with environmental health and the point of contact to make sure that they indeed do schedule. And I will also reach out to that department because they have their land use staff, and that's a different suite of staff that aren't typically participating in planning commissions. I'll also reach out to separately for that. And we will also add to have this be an item to have a kind of an annual check-in update as a part of that referral.
Thank you. Any other commissioners?
Thank you. That was perfect.
Thank you. Great job, everyone. With that, we move on to schedule matters. And we have PLN 240178, Sahi Navneet Singh. And so will staff please make your presentation of this particular item? Thank you.
Can we please share staff right? Thank you. Good morning, Chair Gonzalez, Planning Commissioners. Joseph Almeida presenting HCD file number PLN 240178, Sahi Navneet Singh. The project is located at 8730 Eagles Roost Road in Salinas within the North County Inland Area Plan. The subject property is zoned rural density residential with a density of 5.01 acres per unit. The project before the Planning Commission today involves a use permit to allow the removal of 53 protected oak trees to allow for the future development of a single-family dwelling. Pursuant to Title 21, the first single-family dwelling per lot is a principally allowed use within the rural density residential zoning district and therefore is processed ministerially, not requiring a discretionary decision on behalf of the Planning Commission. County planning will be required to review the construction permit plans when submitted to ensure substantial conformance with the allotted trees and under this project as illustrated within the attached plans. Pursuant to Title 21 and the North County Inland Area Plan, oak and madrone trees are native and are therefore protected, requiring a use permit for removal of more than 3 within a 1-year period and on-site replanting. As proposed, the project involves the removal of 53 oak trees and 1 non-native Monterey pine. 3 of the trees proposed for removal are greater than 24 inches in diameter and are therefore landmark trees, which are indicated on screen by the yellow stars. All of the landmark trees are identified in their prepared arborist report as being in poor to fair condition. 1 will be impacted by the future septic tank, and the other 2 will be impacted by access and landscaping improvements. Staff analyzed the development of the proposed single-family dwelling and associated site improvements and found that the proposed tree removal as illustrated is the minimum under the circumstances of the subject property. The subdivision recorded a final map that outlined 2 separate envelopes for the building and leach field, shown on screen in yellow. The proposed development and proposed tree removal are located entirely within those envelopes, and as cited in design, avoid the removal of 24 other native trees within the building envelope. The applicant worked with staff to reduce proposed tree removal from 67 trees down to 54, and the proposed 4,404 square foot dwelling is consistent with surrounding residences, which range in size from 4,412 square feet to 5,880. As seen on screen, the subject parcel is densely forested, including within the identified building and leach field envelopes. The future residence utilizes the least forested portion of the building envelope and avoids slopes in the upper portion of the building envelope. Additionally, the highly forested lot is identified as being within a high fire state responsibility hazard area, and the proposed tree removal is in keeping with County Code Title 18, which outlines fuel modification standards to reduce the intensity of a wildfire by reducing the volume and density of flammable vegetation. Therefore, the proposed tree removal is a minimum necessary given the circumstances of the lot and future development. Therefore, staff recommends the Planning Commission find the project categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15303 and 15304 and approve a use permit to allow the removal of 53 oak trees. Additionally, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the addition of the standard indemnification agreement as condition number 7. That concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. With that, we bring it back to the commission for questions, comments, concerns, clarifications. Commissioners? Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you. I saw this was twice in our packet. And I'm wondering if this was a typo. It's, as far as the Land Use Advisory Committee, it's saying that it did warrant referral, but I don't see anything else about that.
Yes, staff was just made aware this morning of that typo. It should say did not.
Okay.
That's in finding 1, evidence F of the resolution, and also in the CEQA section of the staff report. Staff apologizes for that.
Thank you. And through the chair, I just wanted to, another question, because I didn't see this addressed in the staff report. I was looking at the report by the biological consulting firm, and they stated in their observations that this was not the ideal time of year for the biological assessment, and that in order to do a complete and valid assessment, it would have to be done, at minimum 4 months later than it was done. And I'm wondering why that wasn't mentioned. What is the reasoning for accepting this information as the best and factual?
Just allow staff 1 minute to review that, and we'll get right back to you on that.
Thank you. Commissioner Roberts?
I have one question that I might have missed from the beginning. I understand that this is a building envelope as designated, I guess, by the original subdivision. And I just was curious, was there an environmental document that, why was this building envelope chosen to begin with? Does anybody have background on that?
Staff is unaware at this time. Please allow me to look into that.
Not a problem.
Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. While we're doing that, I'm wondering if we could ask council we received a letter on this item, I guess I should say, about the HOA. If we just ask council to clarify our role with respect to the HOA's role with a development of this sort.
Through the chair, I'll have to look again, but generally the HOA objection does stop most projects. I'd have to look to see if this would apply in this case, but I'll do that right now and ask to talk to the chair when I have confirmed.
Any other commissioners? Did staff have an opportunity to come up with some information on previous questions?
Yes, through the chair. To address Commissioner Roberts' question, there would have been an environmental document prepared for the original subdivision. However, that likely would not have described specifically why certain building envelopes were determined. That would likely be difficult to ascertain at this time, but there would have been an environmental document with the originally approved subdivision, which staff can find if the commission would like to see that.
I really was only curious, just from the maps and the imaging that we've been given, it looks like there's a clearer spot somewhere. It may be on a hill, and so that was all I was looking for. And then just out of curiosity, what year the subdivision would have been created and that environmental document.
One second, staff can find that information. The final map was recorded in 1999. And there is a substantial scenic easement on the property on most of that portion of the property where there is clearance.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair, apologies. The part of the code I was thinking of has to do with short-term rentals and has been revised. So the letter from the HOA does not have an effect on the Planning Commission's decision today, other than as a piece of public comment.
Thank you. Any other questions, clarifications? Commissioner Deal?
Just to be absolutely clear, I understand whether or not something has been approved by any given HOA to which a project is signatory has nothing to do with the county's decision at this time. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hartzell?
Can I just have a quick rundown on how come we're looking at this permit to remove trees but not looking at any of the building planning?
Yes, so within the rural density residential zoning district, a single-family dwelling is a principally allowed use, meaning it just requires a building permit process, and it's processed ministerially. However, this scale of tree removal within the North County Inland Area Plan and Title 21 does require discretionary approval. So today, the recommendation is just for approval of the use permit for the removal of the 53 oak trees, which is to allow for the house. However, the house, per our code, doesn't require a discretionary approval.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other commissioners? Seeing Commissioner Mendoza?
Just real quick, since we're not looking at a house project per se, we're just looking at the tree removal basically under this situation. If we had issue with having 53 oak trees removed, how would we address it? Like, okay, we can allow you to remove a certain amount of trees, but not a total of 53. How would we address that?
Yeah, the Planning Commission could, at their discretion, choose to make recommendations or approve only a certain amount of tree removal, which could then affect the actual future development of the home. However, I don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, County Council or the Chair or Secretary, I don't believe the Planning Commission could make discretion decisions directly in relation to the home itself. However, you could make discretion decisions in relation to the tree removal, which could inadvertently affect or directly affect the home itself.
And through the chair, if I may add, yes, Mr. Almeida is correct on that piece. Essentially, the foreseeable development of the site is very much intertwined with the use permit to allow the tree removal, and so the commission wouldn't generally be considering the tree removal if there wasn't any other development coming alongside of it. And so because the required finding to support the use permit for tree removal is the minimum necessary, we would seek direction or input from the commission as to whether the proposed 53 trees are the minimum necessary for the circumstances, and looking at the constraints of the site, the foreseeable development being placed is within the purview of the commission. It's just the findings to support or not the single family dwelling is not before the commission today.
Commissioner, yeah. You still have the floor.
I understand it. However, in other projects we've had, if the house is too big or what have you, we would have the discretion to say, okay, I think that the house is too big. That's why you have to remove all these additional trees. How do you mitigate or how do you address that type of situation under this circumstance? Was it where, okay, we're going to remove 53 trees and then we're going to put a house this size on it? But I just find it difficult to kind of deal with that because these are you have some trees that are really, really large. Unfortunately, they're in bad shape, like a lot of them seem to be. But if they can make the house smaller, then those trees might not have to be taken out. And that's the problem I'm having as a commissioner. How do I address that? Unless I can, okay, this is the house we're building, this is the size we're moving. Maybe if you move it, 20 feet to the left, you don't have to remove those trees. Some of them are being removed just for landscaping purposes. So I think we're going beyond with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm fairly new at this. Unless it can be explained to me, I don't feel comfortable making any decision on this. Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think if I may, through the chair, it is a little bit unusual because clearly the house design is what affects the tree removal. And so it's not a direct consideration of the house design, but that does play the direct role in the tree removal that's being proposed. And I will look to County Council if I'm misinterpreting or sort of misstating here. But I think the way that as staff has looked at this is there are still findings that need to be made and supported that the commission has to be comfortable with, which is why clearly we included in showing what the tree removal is, what the footprint for the home and for the actual structure and landscaping and other. So I think it's while you are not doing a design approval specifically for this item, because the design, the sizing, the siting does affect the tree removal, and the commission still does have to be comfortable with the findings, and staff could review in this case what those specific findings are for the commission, that it's the minimal, kind of minimal for this development. It's indirectly still within your purview to look at aspects and deem if that is supportable for the commission to be comfortable with the findings that are made.
Thank you, Commissioner Work.
I just also, it would have been nice to remind us that there's replanting also. That's a big thing in my book. I'm not so opposed to taking out trees as long as they're replaced.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Roberts?
The one thing for me that I was trying to reconcile is this property has a building envelope, and we don't always get a building envelope with a property. So if I'm reading it correctly from the maps provided, the building envelope isn't much bigger than the area that they're developing in. And the topo lines looks like it may go downhill a little, maybe, I don't know if we have pictures. And so I'm not sure, maybe that's what we need, is more information about where the building envelope is and what the alternatives are within the building envelope. But in my very limited understanding of what I'm looking at through the maps, it looks like there may not be a lot of possibility to move this. And in 1999, presumably there was a environmental document that was done to consider this particular space, and now we have to consider the trees within that particular space. So maybe if staff is able to show us some pictures of what the actual lot and building envelope looks like to understand what the alternatives may or may not be.
Yes, through the chair. So I believe the applicant will be better able to speak specifically to the placement of the home. However, upon staff's review, the placement of the home does utilize the least forested portion of the building envelope, which is that southern clearance you can see in this area. That was done specifically to avoid tree removal. You also have slopes in excess of 25% in this upper area, so the placement of the home avoids development on slopes. Also, the placement of the home avoids further tree removal by moving it to the left or to the right. I believe the applicant can better speak to the placement of that, as well as to work with previous staff members who were on this project where the tree removal was reduced down from 67 to 54. And that was done through resiting of the home and some other design changes that, again, I believe the applicant will be better able to speak to.
Thank you. Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. I'm a little nervous about fundamentals of the consideration being presented better by the applicant. It always I prefer that to be something that staff speaks to from their own technical knowledge. But my question is really very simple. Is the current design before us of the house approved conditional on this tree removal already, or is it waiting to be approved and could be changed in the interim?
Through the chair.
It's a chicken and an egg thing here.
Through the chair, the applicant has not yet applied for a construction permit, so that process has not begun. They were waiting for the tree removal approval first. So there is potential for, during the review of the building permit, for some potential modifications to be made. There is language in the resolution that states that any modifications to the amount of tree removal required would require an amendment to the project before you today.
I'm sorry, I find myself back at it as Commissioner Mendoza, as I say, it's chicken and egg-ish. It's not helpful to me to come forward with pieces of a project. It feels like piecemealing, and it feels as if I can't make an intelligent statement about what's going on at all. So I look forward to the ensuing discussion to straighten that out. But as of this point, I don't I mean, it's too mushy. I can't tell you whether this is the house that's going to be there. I can't tell you whether it's the minimum number of trees required until I know what the house looks like. I mean, I don't even know where to go except for Commissioner Roberts saying presumably they looked at all the trees on the building envelope and said you could cut them all down and we'd still be all right. But anyway, I look forward to clarity in the discussion to come because I don't have it yet.
Through the chair, the applicant has indicated that the design presented in the project plans is their most current and up-to-date and desired development proposal for the lot. There is language that maybe could be bolstered to add in that upon submittal and planning's review of the construction permit, should there be modifications to the design that would warrant retention of existing trees, that could be built into the authorization. So it would allow up to 53 trees, but no more. And again, if trees could be retained through our review, then we would have the authority to do so through that process.
Commissioner Deal?
But just to clarify, there's been no submittal for the house at this time, so there's nothing official about this design except the applicant thinks they like it, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Monsalve?
I just want to make sure that I understand. We will not have any authority to review or approve that design when the owner does finalize it and put it forward. That will not come to us. We will not have authority over it. We will not get to see it, and we can't use it to make this determination today.
That's correct, that the actual construction of the single-family dwelling is only requires ministerial construction and grading permits. However, because the design and footprint of the residence directly impacts trees, that is within the commission's purview today of is this development footprint acceptable, leading to the required findings of whether or not the tree removal is the minimum necessary. So they are intertwined, but the I guess it's really the footprint and grading impacts associated with foreseeable development. Is that the minimum necessary? Not necessarily the architectural style or design of the residence.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Mendoza?
Yeah, I like, so basically, that's probably why we're doing it this way. We do the trees, and then after that, you have the house. So instead of having one completed project, we were kind of looking at the whole project. We're just looking at a piece of it, and we won't have any input on the second of it. So I have a bigger problem with that as well. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Shaw?
So I'm going to go back to the biologist report, and that I'm not comfortable making a decision on what kind of habitat is existing, what's living on this piece of property when the study is not complete or valid. It's been implied that it's not complete or valid. So that's my first concern. My second concern is the same as everyone else's. I'm looking at the amount of trees removed. And I guess I'll just say, like, I don't think this is the minimum. I think you could not remove some of these trees. Some of the biggest trees are in places that they're not even in that footprint, the building footprint. They're by the driveway. I think that they could remove less.
Through the chair, if I may speak towards the concerns about the biological report. The biological report does recommend that additional bird and raptor nesting surveys be conducted in the spring, as December was not the adequate time for those species. It is required through state law that prior to construction permits, should construction commence between, I believe it's February and August, that a secondary or supplemental survey be done. So that would be incorporated into and prior to construction permits.
Commissioner Deal?
The more I think about this, the more confused I get. pretty much every lot of record has the right to build a house on it. I mean, if it's a residentially zoned parcel, you have the right to build a house on it. If that house doesn't require any discretionary permits, it's a ministerial permit. This would. So how can the whole project not be a discretionary project contingent upon the tree removal, as we hear in so many other cases here? How is this different from every other lot that wants to be developed with a home that requires tree removal subject to a discretionary permit? How can you take those two pieces apart in this case and not in every case?
Many of the single-family dwelling applications that come before this commission do require some sort of discretionary permit, whether that is a design approval, if it's within the design control district, an administrative permit if it's in the S district, or VS district, use permits again if it's in the S district, and then coastal zone. There's often or always a entitlement for single-family dwellings. So in this case, there is no overlay district that would warrant any additional discretionary permit. The house is principally allowed in the underlying zoning district, but because there is tree removal to accommodate the single-family dwelling, that is the discretionary matter before the commission.
Commissioner Deal, you still have the floor.
Thank you. But discretion is binary. It's either a discretionary permit or it's not. You can't separate it out and say, well, it's only discretionary in this way and not this other way. I still don't follow that reasoning. I understand that in many cases there are additional factors that are discretionary, but in this case there's demonstrably one factor that is without question discretionary. And to take it separately from the rest of the development is really troubling. I mean, it's like saying, well, you might want to develop something, so we're going to let you cut down a bunch of trees, and we're going to say that's the least you could cut down, when obviously it's not. If you wanted to build a 1,000-square-foot tiny home, you wouldn't cut down that many trees. And we don't know what the construction proposed is until we have a permit that's been submitted and that is being considered. So I'm really troubled by staff's rationale here, and I would like council to weigh in on this because I don't think it's right.
So if I may, through the chair, I think for a point of clarity, and I did just speak with council, and I will ask council to also contribute. For a point of clarity, I think that what happened in this case is because there is typically another discretionary decision that goes along with tree removal and home permits. Staff was trying to make that clarification. However, it's very clear that the footprint and placement of the home, just not the architectural design of the home, for example, is a part of this discretionary consideration and is a part of your purview. So very much so, if pieces of elements of the siding of the home or elements of the design of the home or the hardscape or the landscaping do not work for the commission to be able to support the findings that this is the minimum necessary, then that is within your purview. So I don't believe it was staff's intent to say, do not look at it. I think we were over clarifying perhaps and confused the situation because there's not what is typical, another discretionary decision related to the design of, say, the architectural design and character with the neighborhood. Though, again, all of those still do come in play and are within the purview of this decision, absolutely. And County Council, please weigh in and clarify as you.
Through the chair, no, I would agree with that. It's an unusual situation, but the building envelope is relevant to the approval for the removal of oak trees. So I think the PC can consider it.
Commissioner Deal?
My problem here is that we have no building plan application on file. We don't have a permit application for the drawing that we see before us of the building. So absent it's not real. It's not real till it's written down and submitted. So yes, I understand all that. Yes, I understand we could make the finding that you can cut down whatever trees you want in a building envelope because it's already been considered. I suppose we could do that. But that's not the finding we need to make. It's the minimum that we could possibly manage. if we base anything on any drawing of any design that's not actually submitted, it's theoretical. And I can't see how we can move forward until we have at least a submittal of a design that actually exists in the real world and not just as an arm wave.
Through the chair, to combat that, there is conditions of approval and written into the resolution, again, that that could benefit from being bolstered, that there's a condition of approval that prohibits removal of those trees until such time that a construction permit is issued. And so they could not remove these trees again without an associated construction permit. And through the review of that construction permit, planning staff would ensure that should the commission authorize up to 53 oak trees removal, that design is consistent with that removal. And if there could be trees retained during that removal, the resolution is written in the ability to allow or give staff the authorization to retain those.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it would be beneficial if, just looking to the commission, if I'm hearing two things. There's a process concern because there is not a building permit application that locks in the design that is associated with this footprint. I'm wondering if there's a way to, in bolstering the condition, again, to put language that indicates that what will be submitted will be substantial and consistent, and or if not, then it would be per the review, and again, consistent with the kind of sizing, footprint, and landscape pieces. And again, the commission could today elect to say, because you are looking at the footprint where the building structure is, where the hardscaping, driveway, other elements are, you are looking at those. And if elements of it are not supportable for the tree removal, then that very much is in your purview as well to request that those elements change. So I guess I'm looking a little bit at, I think staff is making the suggestion that we bolster, that you consider the footprint, you consider the design, whether or not you can support it as the minimum. And if you can support it, then we would could bolster those conditions of approval to make it very clear that what will be submitted will be intended with this footprint, and that there will be a planning review to ensure that the footprint is consistent, with the goal of removing fewer trees if possible. If there's another approach, we can think about that as well.
Commissioner Deal?
My suggestion of an approach would be to get a building permit application and then make it contingent upon the tree removal, like we do in every other case.
That is
Commissioner Monsalve? Go ahead.
sorry, through the chair, I think both processes are a little contingent on each other. The construction permit is contingent on a use permit to authorize tree removal, because the construction permit cannot get issued or cannot be approved without planning sign-off, which is, we would be looking at resources impacted by the site, and that is this use permit before the commission today. And then similarly, the use permit today is contingent on the final design, which needs a construction permit. So I understand the process concerns, and I think there is, in staff's opinion, the ability to write in those contingencies to ensure that the design does not increase, or should the commission desire that the lesser trees be removed, that a future construction permit is consistent with that tree removal.
Staff might also add, I think I did hear some questions or concerns about the footprint of at least certain aspects, whether or not that assumes that there wouldn't be some desire for the commission to see any kind of change or alteration of the footprint of the design that's before you and the features of it. So I think it might be helpful also to the applicant that there's a process question, but I think I think hearing from the commission, if we could address the process question either through the condition or requesting that a building permit be submitted, I think it's still worthy to. I think it's still worthy to then weigh in on. Maybe we could get feedback to the applicant. It sounds like we may not be able to get to a final decision today, but perhaps if we could also get feedback on those considerations.
Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, I appreciate the concerns here. However, this discussion would have to proceed without any mention of the building particulars, because to date, we have no knowledge of what the building is going to be like on paper. We have a drawing that someone has put forward for the purposes of design, I assume, that sketches out a potential floor plan. We can't look at that floor plan because we can't look at the building. We can't look at anything about this layout. So if the discussion is usefully going forward without any mention of the particulars of the building, sure. If it requires any reference to any floor plan of any type, we don't have that. We didn't get that in paper yet. So that's my problem. We can't discuss something that isn't in our system at all, except as a sketch on this drawing, which we're not supposed to be considering, because we're not considering the building. The floor plan is part of the building.
Commissioner Monsalve?
Thank you, through the chair, to follow up. If we did have an approved floor plan and building permit, it would have already been approved ministerially, and therefore we couldn't really think that our decision could alter something that's been already approved? Or are we thinking that it comes before us approved, and then we deny tree removals, and therefore the already approved ministerially project has to be changed?
Through the chair, so they could apply for a construction permit. Planning would not sign off on that construction permit, which means the construction permit would not be issued until we had the discretionary decision on the tree removal, which could lead to the Planning Commission reducing the amount of trees, which could change the scope and design of the home, which would require going back to the beginning of the process for the applicant and resubmitting for a construction permit. So a construction permit that came to you all would not be an approved construction permit. It would be one that would be contingent upon this decision, in the same way that today's project is contingent upon this decision. The difference would be that an application would be in for the construction permit. However, an additional difference would be that if the Planning Commission were to make drastic changes, it would require the applicant to restart that construction permit process, resubmit in a new review for new plans if they were needed to be submitted.
Commissioner Hartzell?
It's interesting to me that one of the benefits of building in a rural area is the amount of freedom you have, and yet it's so circular and Byzantine. So that's just a comment. I'm interested in the landmark oaks, and I'm just wondering, I know staff did a site visit. Can you tell me anything else about any efforts that were made to preserve those or talk to the applicant about those?
So there were other landmark oaks that were, landmark and dual stem oaks that were saved in the process working with previous staff. The two oak trees in the front, the applicant had requested to remove those. Staff had brought up concerns relating to them, but the applicant, in light of previous reduction of tree removal, requested those trees be removed as well. And sorry, through the chair, the Arbor's report does identify at least one of the landmark oaks as being in poor condition, which staff took that into consideration as well.
And the scenic, through the chair, one more question. Thank you. The scenic easement, it's due to the view from Eagle Roost, is that accurate?
Sorry, one second. Given the location of the scenic easement, it appears more likely that it would be to avoid visibility from Crazy Horse Canyon Road and or Hidden Canyon Road.
Got it.
And protect more trees.
Understood. And one more question about the landmark oaks, and then I'm done. The two landmark oaks closest to Eagle Roost, those are dual stem, and the one back on the leach field, that's 4?
So the one back on the leach field is a dual stem tree. The arborist report describes it and discusses it as a separate tree from 667, but they are very close together and it shows them as being right next to each other. However, it is a dual stem tree.
Great. Thank you for the clarity.
Any other commissioners? Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing, and then will the agent or the owner come and make your presentation on this particular project, owner or the agent? Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
My name is Namneet Singh Sahi. I'm the owner. Okay. My name is Namneet Singh Sahi. I'm the owner of the property in question. I just wanted to make a couple clarifications. One, the building envelope limits are shown in the yellow. We did our best to, kind of compact the building footprint as much as we could. And I know it looks like we're trying to remove all the trees. We're really not. I'm trying to minimize my costs and, the effort I have to put in for developing this lot. So I am, I also had the whole chicken and egg situation where, like, what do I do first? Do I apply for this use permit? Do I apply for the construction permit first? I started this whole procedure, I think it was May of last year, so we're about 13 months in. This isn't just a theoretical or a hypothetical drawing. This is very much the drawing and the design that we're going to be submitting shortly after getting approval of this use permit, if that's the case. So in terms of the building limits, we're very tight on the west side, which would be, I guess, on the left side of your screen. You can see that the building envelope is actually kind of coming in diagonal, and it's touching the two-car garage building corner there. So we really can't bring it any more forward. In terms of going left and right, we'd be hitting the limits of the building envelope. If we move it to the right, that's the leach field envelope, and it's already pretty tight there. We're still working on the septic design for that, and right now, yes, there are a lot of trees proposed in the leach field to be removed, but we're going to be working with staff and planning. If there's any possibility of reducing the number of trees, let's say we can get that 54 or 53 trees down to, 40, something trees, I'd be more than happy to, retain those. From a landscaping perspective, I'd much rather have mature oaks, especially the landmark ones in the front. The issue with those trees, specifically the landmark trees, was the amount of grading we're going to have to do. Right now, I don't know the elevations exactly, but you can see the grade lines on that map there. And we're going to be grading somewhere between, 4 to 5 feet. So, the root impact that's going to, have on those trees is going to be substantial. But another thing I was talking to my designer about earlier on too was maybe doing like some kind of planters, especially for some of the trees that we can retain. And seeing if that could be an option. Another thing we did, you can see on the left-hand side there's some green trees by the retaining wall. Given the the grade changes that we're going to have, we're definitely going to need some retaining walls. But we did try to pull in the retaining wall as close, into the building footprint as we could. The backyard it's pretty tight. It's nothing like too excessive. So overall, we did our best to, propose the least amount of trees, and we'll try again once we're applying for the building permits. Any questions I can answer?
Commissioner Hartzell?
We received a public comment letter from the HOA. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
This is just a small encouragement to address that.
Yeah, so we were also unaware that there was I knew there was an architectural review committee in the HOA. My understanding was that was more for like the building side before we applied for building permits and the construction permit. That wasn't the case. I reached out to Mr. Chapin soon after, I think like a few hours after finding out that there was that concern. And, we shared all the plans that we have, the future development that we're proposing. We had some elevations prepared so that the HOA didn't have, their concerns in terms of the future development. So those concerns have been addressed, and Mr. Chapin can maybe speak to it. Yeah.
Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. I want to express my condolences for this kind of confusion. Things shouldn't be this confusing, and I do understand that, and I don't wish to leave it as if I had a particular problem with this project. I don't. It's a process issue for me. You sound as if you have plans ready to submit for a construction permit. Is that accurate?
Not 100% ready, because we were having the same thing that, Jacob was mentioning, is we can't really move forward. Like, I could have prepared civil, structural, floor plans, elevations, roof plans, all this kind of stuff. But then if there was a change, like a significant change to the design, I'd literally have to go back to all my consultants and be like, just kidding, please redo everything. So I don't have everything prepared. We have some elevations ready that we can share with you. And I think we have floor plans.
I think that we're not, at this point, we can't look at any of that stuff in a determinate fashion. I mean, of course, I'm always interested.
Right.
But until I'm wondering if we could provide to the county something that we could incorporate into this plan that was a definite thing that says, this is the floor plan we are asking you to consider. And that would allow us to have a benchmark for what substantially compliant was, besides an outline on a piece of paper that isn't backed up by anything. I mean, I understand that we can't require a submittal, but an applicant could voluntarily submit that information to help inform the process, and it would then be in the record, I would think. I would leave it to staff, but I was asking you if you have that kind of information available in case that was an opportunity to break through this impasse.
Yeah, so we have the latest set of floor plans.
You could, if that were an option, that would be a route you could take?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
I think so.
Hi. Actually, can
Yeah, go for it.
Hello, I'm the applicant and preliminary designer for this project. I think, Commissioner Dell, we could ask Monterey County staff to add conditions of compliance restricting the square footage. That way it doesn't seem like this commission hearing is writing a blank check for this tree removal. I know that could also be an alternate path moving forward, starting from this preliminary phase. Oh, and then Commissioner Roberts, I did hear your concerns about the validity of the biological report. If you look at the very last page on the conclusion, it does show the biological professional's assessment that a later report will not be impactful.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? Or if not, well, thank you for your presentation. And then with that, we're going to continue with the public hearing, and then we'll continue. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And with that, is anybody in the chambers that's wanting to come and address the commission on this particular item, this would be the time to do it. Please make sure to state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Don Chapin. Commissioner Deal may remember way back when I was the original developer of this subdivision. For a little historical context, I started on this subdivision in the late 1980s. The final map wasn't recorded until 1999, as you heard, but you know what the process is to develop a subdivision of this magnitude, 24 5-acre parcels. When these lots were laid out, these trees weren't as mature as they are today, so that obviously brings an issue. 35 years ago, when this lot was envisioned, some of those trees didn't even exist. So I'm also the president of the Homeowners Association and have been since the inception, only so that we could maintain and continue the integrity of the subdivision and make sure that the environmental impacts were minimized. Unfortunately, Nav and I did not get together until just recently, and I was made aware of the layout last night. I was given the plans and the reports last night. And I haven't had much time to work with Nav on being able to develop a comprehensive plan on siting his residence, which is guided by the CC&Rs of the subdivision, of which there is a minimum square footage. There are certain requirements that he has to meet, and the HOA has every intention on reviewing that and making sure he does meet those, which I'm very confident he will. He's a very dedicated owner, very dedicated builder, so I believe that will be a good process. In the short time that I have had to be able to look at this, I have made some suggestions to his design team to save multiple trees. I think there's an opportunity to save the trees in the front. There's certainly an opportunity to save the trees in the back. And I think that we need a little bit of time to work on that. Those oak trees that are 23 and 24 and 22 inch in diameter, I will disagree with the arborist. I believe that they are in a fair to good shape. I don't believe that they are poor in any way. They're oak trees. They go through cycles. So that's just the way they live. Our goal would be to preserve as many as possible. I believe there's an opportunity to relocate the leach field envelope to another portion of the parcel. There's a 5-acre, it is a 5-acre parcel. There's some land below the parcel, down gradient, that I believe the leach field could be relocated in that would be far less impactful. So it's something that we can certainly talk about. But I do believe that there is a way to site this building and reach everyone's goals, which would be environmental conservation as best we can, developing the lot to its highest and best use, and getting done what the owner, Navneet, would like to have done. In all of these, I think this process today has been very, very good, because when I talked to Nav, he was concerned that he spent a lot of money on design and building a house and putting all of his plans forward, and then coming to the commission and not being able to remove a tree. I think he really was concerned about hearing what is the process and how can I do this, and can I remove those trees, and how do I make this all happen. So I think today's process has been very, very good, very informational, and I think important along this way to make sure that we all can get our goals taken care of. So being there since day one, I'm very interested in making sure that it is done well and properly. And Commissioner Deal may remember we talked about the oak trees 30 years ago. She may remember those conversations. I can assure you that every lot in this subdivision, when it was developed, every lot in the subdivision, it had been determined at the time there would be tree removal necessary to develop the lots, to develop the houses. There was an arborist and forestry report developed way back in the in the early 90s, I believe it was around 95, 96 timeframe, that is comprehensive, and it did entertain the fact that to develop the houses, certain tree removal would be required, and that was certainly true on this lot. But here we are again, 30-plus years later. Trees have developed. Trees that were 4 inches of breast height back then are today 10 or 12 inches of breast height. So things have changed. So I believe we can get to where we want to go, and I am here as the president of the HOA, the original developer, and certainly an interested person to make sure that all the parties can come together and accomplish their goals. I am certainly willing to do whatever it takes to make that work on our behalf. So the HOA will be reviewing the plans. We will hold the applicant to the standards that the subdivision was planned around, and he has agreed that he will certainly do that. I think he's a guy who owns a lot, who wants to build a house, and this is not what he does for a living, and there are learning lessons and learning as you go through the processes, but I know that we're going to get this accomplished and be able to make all of that happen. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to entertain any. Otherwise, I'll go away.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes, I had a question. I think that
Yes,
you
ma'am.
mentioned that the HOA has a minimum square footage.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
3,500 square feet of living space.
Thank you very much.
Any other commissioners? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody else in the chambers that would like to come and speak to this particular item? Seeing none, is there anybody in Zoom, or are there any emails related to this item?
There are no additional emails or hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. With that, we bring it back to staff for any comments, clarifications.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Therefore, we bring it back to the commission for comments, questions, clarifications, motions. Commissioner Roberts?
Having listened to all this, I think that because of this very unique situation where we aren't considering any other discretionary actions, which as far to my knowledge is one of the first times this has ever happened in my experience here, I actually am convinced that this applicant had no other option. This particular parcel cannot move forward without the ability to remove trees. And if you don't know how many trees you can remove, then you don't know what you can build. And I suspect in the findings and evidence, there is some information about fire codes. I suspect if we heard from fire, they would maybe even demand additional trees. It's possible. I don't know that for sure. That said, hearing Mr. Chapin say that the homeowner is required to build a minimum of 3,500 square feet, I think in this particular case, we could bolster our findings and evidence further to state exactly what we've heard in the hearing today from staff, that this particular parcel is incredibly unique in that it has no other additional discretionary permits. We've heard from the applicant himself that he's willing to remove less trees if and when possible, and that the homeowners association requires a 3,500 square foot living space. And even without plans, I think it's pretty fair to assume we are going to require maybe not 54 trees, but pretty close to that to be able to accomplish these goals. So with that said, I would be willing to support a motion to approve this, and obviously open to commissioner comments.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Monsalve to approve this particular item. With that, we have any comments, questions? Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, I still do have some technical stuff to do. I hope my colleagues will allow it. On the tree removal and replacement relocation commission condition, which is condition number 6, I believe we have nothing requiring monitoring after 1 year, which is not normal for us. So I'm just asking if that's intentional, and if so, why?
Through the chair, that is standard county condition of approval language for tree replanting. However, if the commission desires longer monitoring periods, we would welcome modifications.
How do we come up with a standard condition besides we've used it several times in the past? Is there some technical reason that is useful? Or is it just random? I mean, is there an arborist that says if it survives 1 year, it's good to go? Or is there something, because it seems short to me, and I know we've done other things in other places. Well, that's not something that needs to be answered at the moment, but it seems short to me is all I'm saying. I don't think it's a big deal, but I don't like the answer that something is standard unless we can back it up. So in the future, I would like to know why we choose that particular time period, because as we know, year to year, things are different around here. But more importantly, I couldn't support the motion unless it included something along the lines of adopting the drawings that have been presented to us in this application, and that substantial conformance shall include no more than you see here, substantially the same as you see in the drawings that we currently have before us for the floor plan. And if there are changes to that that include more trees, it would have to come back here. I mean, if it's less trees, I'm happy for that. But if it's more trees, I would like for it to come back here. But I want to adopt something that actually memorializes the plans we're looking at when we make that decision.
Commissioner Roberts?
I guess for me personally, the plans that we're looking at aren't necessarily important to my decision, solely for the fact that we can't look at them and we aren't giving the public an opportunity to consider them, and the HOA hasn't approved them. And so for me, I think the justification for me is a 3,500 square foot house of living space is going to require some pretty substantial tree removal. And if we were able to, in our evidence, state that that's part of the requirement for this building, that there were no other discretionary permits necessary for this lot, and that the applicant will continue to try to eliminate tree removal to the best of his ability, that would be what satisfied me.
I support that statement as far as the motion goes, and monitoring and modifying any statement, except perhaps the limiting the number of tree removal to what we are agreeing to here as what is presented. So not more than what is being shown.
And I think that's already reflected in the information. And Commissioner Mendoza?
Yes, I just want clarification. There is a motion made, however, hearing from Mr. Chapin that the 3 landmark trees are not in the way, if we approve up to the 53, how would that work? Are we protecting those trees because they're not even in the footprint of the house being proposed, or how do we protect those trees? Because based on what I've heard, they're in good conditions. They're not in the footprint. If we approve them and the HOA says no, you can't remove them, are they going to save them, or where are we at? I just need clarification on that.
Any comments? Commissioner Monsalve?
I'm comfortable with the approval of this motion because I do believe that if the HOA says those trees can be saved, the HOA will deny the applicant's design and make the applicant make the modification to spare the trees. It's not that I'm passing off our responsibility, but because we don't have exact plans to base our decision on, they will have the exact plans to make their decision based on. So I'm comfortable with our approval, the way we've made the motion.
Commissioner Deal?
I'm still having some angst here. If we look at page 4 of the resolution, finding 5 for tree removal, we mention proposed development in there several times. The proposed tree removal is limited to that which is necessary for the proposed development. The proposed development is I want to build a house. So the proposed development that we've been looking at drawings of the plan for is for a 5,500 square foot house. I understand that it does help me to think through Commissioner Roberts' point that they have a minimum requirement. But whenever we say proposed development, I still think there's confusion because our drawings show an outline. And so if we're saying that that proposed development of any sort can't be made without 53 trees, which is I think what we're going towards, I think that finding needs to be clarified to say that, which it currently does not. And I guess that's where I'm in trouble. Any place where we talk about proposed development where it implies that we're looking at some specific design, I would still have trouble with it. I don't have trouble with the underlying philosophy at all, by the way. I'm not, and to the applicant, I've nothing in anything I've seen suggests that this isn't an appropriate process. But we got to avoid findings that say something that might be used in a different context to mean something different.
Commissioner Roberts?
And I completely agree with that. And I think language referring specifically to what the applicant has proposed should be removed, with the idea that we are clearing space for a 3,500 square foot lot, and maybe it goes so far as to say access to the home has to be from whichever road that is and is a steep grade, and whatever is specific to this lot that would require tree removal without the applicant having a design in front of them.
Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. And that's a pretty extensive rewrite of the evidence on finding 5, because it talks about the siting of the proposed leach field and all sorts of other things that are specific to the physical design of the project. So we'd need a pretty good revamp of that evidence before I could become comfortable with it, if that's a goal.
Mr. Chair. The leach field was an interesting one to me because it also has its own envelope, and we've heard the Homeowners Association speak today and original developers speak today that maybe the leach field could be moved. To me, that's something outside our purview, and if a new map had to be created or, to me, that is way beyond something we are capable of helping this applicant with today. And so for me personally, it's about the existing leach field that is in an envelope that this applicant is using.
It's a big envelope. I mean, we could relocate the leach field within that envelope and make changes in it too. It's not, whenever it says proposed leach field, I just want it clear that we're talking, we don't have a proposed anything. We have an envelope. If you say within the envelope, something like that. And that's the kind of revision I'm talking about.
That's fair. I agree with that also. I just heard the original developer speak of changing that envelope, and I just wanted to make sure that I'm not in favor of trying to work that out today.
Commissioner Mendoza?
I still have trouble in the sense that we don't know what the HOA agreement is, what they can do, what they can't do in reference to tree removal or no tree removal. We don't enforce HOAs. HOAs enforce themselves based on what their agreement is. So if we're saying that those 53 trees can be removed, and those 3 landmark trees don't need to be removed, we're already saying they can't. We don't know what their agreement is. It's an HOA. So I guess the problem I'm having, how do we protect those 3 trees that don't need to be removed? I mean, could they be removed as of the get-go, as of now, per se, and not rely on an HOA to whether they need to be removed or not? Because I've heard it from him saying that they're in good shape, and it's true. You know, oak trees might look terrible today, and give it a couple of years, they look beautiful. So I guess what I'm trying to do is, why don't we, if those trees are not in the way and they're not really affecting anything, those 3 landmark trees, why don't we remove them from now instead of passing it over to the HOA that I don't know what their agreement is. I have not had an opportunity to go through it, read it, dissect it, and find out, you know, what their agreements are, what they can do, what they can't. That's the only problem I'm having. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Roberts?
I guess for me, I'm okay with including those 3 because in my experience, I've watched other projects with landmark trees along driveways that we have protected, and the root system doesn't handle the construction. It's not the tree itself, the root system, and then it fails, and then they have to come back and have, even though the tree was highly monitored. So I guess my experience is I'm okay with these 3, given the fact that the bigger issue is this subdivision was approved in 1999 on a site that at the time looked like it was okay for approval. They carefully chose, presumably, building envelopes. I mean, when we have projects that have building envelopes, it almost, to me, is the gift of, okay, somebody's really thought about this. So at some point, 30 years ago, it sounds like, somebody thought about where the best place on this site was. And this is what this property owner was given. And he's not asking to change the scenic easement. He's not asking to, for all these exceptions to what was already approved. And so I guess today I'm hoping to support the property owner in what he believed he was purchasing.
Thank you. Commissioner Deal?
So for clarification, what, if any, changes to the existing resolution would the maker of the motion be proposing?
For me, to include evidence where important or where necessary that this site requires a certain square footage, 3,500 square feet of living space, that this particular site has no other discretionary permit actions, and therefore the actual building is not being considered, and that all references to a building design be removed and made more generally to what is allowed on the site. In the envelope, yeah.
Thank you. Will this maker or the second agree to those changes?
I would just like to confirm that those changes cover the proposed changes by Commissioner Deal. Because as she was going through her suggestions to the changes in the findings, I was in agreement with those edits.
I also agree with that, and looking to Commissioner Deal to see if that captures what her concerns were.
I'm sorry to be so slow. I'm trying to see if there's a more global way to do it than to go through that particular finding and just say that given the constraints, the previous considerations, given that everything's within an envelope, given that there's no other restrictions, to build a 3,500 square foot home or greater is going to take this many trees, so we authorize the removal of that many trees or fewer. I just want to, maybe there's a cleaner way to do it than to go through that finding, but I don't know what it is right offhand. I'd be be, if the spirit of that is there, and if that makes any sense to staff, that would be a better route for me. Even saying we looked at an example and this is the best we can do or something, but.
Okay, did we get all of the comments? And I'm gonna, I guess, add a few comments. I think the big piece is that we had some concerns, at least from what I heard, was the footprint and the trees. And it seems like from the information that was gathered, that the footprint was pretty much going to be in that particular area, the footprint of the building. And we've heard also from the owner of the property that that's really pretty much the area where a building or a house would be erected. And so I know there were concerns from the HOA that apparently the owner has spoken to, and Mr. Don Chapin, who's the president of the HOA, seems to have clarified that with the owner. And so to me, a lot of the issues have been pretty much cleared. The big issues, and some of it from those that were the historical perspective that enlightened me a little bit, was that back 30 years plus ago, when the area for development was approved, there was agreement or discussion that some of the trees had to be removed. And so let's say we're talking about 3 landmark trees today. Would those landmark trees being landmark trees 30 years ago? Then my guess would be probably that they weren't. And so to me, it's important as far as development and housing. So here we would have another particular house that at least we would be able to have. So with that, I believe in order for make some of the changes or in terms of language modifications, I'm going to go ahead and if it's okay with the rest of the commission, to trail this particular item if the staff needs time to make those changes and modifications, and trail this item to the end. And that way staff would have an opportunity to be able to make those changes, so that at that point we would be able to make hopefully a decision. And so at this point, then I'm going to go ahead and trail this item towards the end. And what time is it right now? I think it might be time for a break. I'm not sure. Oh, yes. So we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break and then come and look at the other item. Thank you. be starting in about a minute, so if we can wrap up the conversations, and we just started again approximately 45 seconds now. Okay, we'll start in about 10 seconds. We're starting the planning, resuming the Planning Commission meeting. And for the record, the 8 commissioners that were present at the beginning are still present at this moment. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, which earlier we moved, and which was agendized as item 3, PLN 220229, Bacone, Norman B., and Victoria E. Egel Code Trust. So with that, will the staff please go ahead and begin their report or presentation on this particular item? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez. IT, will you please share the presentation? There we go. Good morning, commissioners. We are now looking at the PLN 220229 project. My name is Mary Israel, and I'm presenting the project for you this morning as project planner. The project is located at 827 Elkhorn Road, which is APN 181-151-009 in the North County Land Use Plan area. It's in the Coastal Zone Rural Density Residential Zoning District with a 10-acre per unit density maximum, and the 18.17 acre parcel is located on the east side of Elkhorn Road, just south of Hall Road and south of the Blum Ranch, which is held in conservation by the Elkhorn Slough Foundation. The property is otherwise surrounded by residentially developed 5-acre parcels. This combined development project includes the construction of a split-level 2,676 square foot single-family dwelling with a 516 square foot attached carport and a 471 square foot deck, as well as a 414 square foot detached guest house with 133 square foot covered porch, an attached 507 square foot workshop, and a 415 square foot garage. Associated site improvements include a photovoltaic system, a septic system, and a new driveway. There are 3 coastal development permits for non-exempt development that are required to allow this residence that staff will go into in this presentation. The geological report found the site suitable for the development. It recommended the construction of retaining walls supported by augured cast-in-place piers be placed on the downhill side of the residence, and then the structures could utilize conventional shallow continuous foundations and pad footings. The project's grading quantity is estimated to be between 550 and 600 cubic yards. So this is not a design approval, but I wanted to give you a quick idea of the floor plans of the main residence. Its main level is shown on the left, and the lower level is shown on the right. So as you can see, it's a modest split-level home. This is the accessory structure. It's a 1-story floor plan with a guest house, workshop, and garage, all shared on one floor. It's also slightly split level to accommodate the hillside. The guest house meets Title 20 regulations for guest houses in size and floor plan. A standard guest house deed restriction condition of approval has been applied. So I'm going to go quickly through this slide to give you a sense of the land that we're looking at. The potential siting of the home on this parcel is limited by the resources that are found on the parcel. It's currently vacant except for a shared private driveway that crosses the, that I just clicked on, it's now gray, that crosses the southeastern area of the lot. With the proposed design, the project complies with North County LUP resource management policies that require development to be sited off of steep slopes, minimize tree removal, and minimize ground disturbance. Constraints include an area of high archaeological sensitivity down close to Elkhorn Road, that's now shown in orange, as well as open prairie grassland on the whole lower section of the parcel, which is in a high visual impact area for passerbys on Elkhorn Road. Bocconi and Eagle have worked with the adjacent property owner, Elkhorn Slough Foundation, which I also call ESF in this presentation, to propose a lot line adjustment, which you will be reviewing shortly, PLN 240187. The adjusted parcel would be what is now shown in beige. The lot line adjustment rearranges acreages of the subject parcel and the parcel to the east to meet the applicant's goal to allow a shorter driveway with less impacts to slope and oak woodland. The oak woodland is now shown in green. The proposed residence and guest house, now shown in gray, are placed off of slopes and out of the highest visually sensitive areas of the parcel. The proposed driveway, now shown in brown, meets them and also meets fire requirements for a fire turnaround and widths. So all of these constraints come together with some Pájaro manzanita that is nearby and within 100 feet of the proposed residence. Required setbacks in the RDR district for main dwellings and accessory structures are 30 feet front, 20 feet sides and rear. Detached accessory non-habitable structures are subject to 50-foot front, 6-foot side front half, 1-foot side rear half, and 1-foot rear. The main dwelling and attached guest house would have front, side, and rear setbacks greater than 100 feet. 2 water tanks are proposed to serve the project, and they are now shown in blue on a pad. They're designed to be 9 feet, 8 inches in height to minimize impacts to the sensitive environment nearby. And so those also meet setbacks as they are development. So that's a quick rundown through the whole project, and now we'll go into some more detail. A coastal development permit is required for the removal of 17 protected coast live oaks, including 1 landmark tree, which is shown in the photograph on the left of this slide. It has fallen down, and a small percentage of the canopy is alive, and that was reported by the arborist. The illustration now showing the forest management plan shows removal of trees in red, including a large canopy of the prone landmark tree close to the entrance of the driveway, and suggests that 3 additional trees would need to be monitored for potential hazards during construction phase of the project. Those 3 trees are not listed among the ones proposed for removal. A coastal development permit is required for development within 100 feet of ESHA, or environmentally sensitive habitat area. Per the North County LUP Policy 2.3.2.1, this development is allowed provided that it is compatible with the long-term maintenance of the resource. Impacts to Pájaro manzanita that could occur during construction are avoided. An area of 0.08 acres or 1.19% of the total property canopy coverage would be impacted. And additionally, through application of avoidance measures such as vegetation removal, grading, construction timing, monitoring, and the use of exclusionary fencing, potential impacts to California red-legged frog habitat, which is in this case dispersal habitat during the rainy season, is minimized and avoided. Furthermore, the project is compatible with LUP Policy 2.3.2.6. As mitigated, there are 2 forms of habitat conservation. The lot line adjustment associated with this development involves a donation of over 4 acres of oak woodland to Elkhorn Slough Foundation, which will be added to the lands the organization conserves in perpetuity. And also condition number 14 has been applied to this project to require that an area of the property containing premium habitat be placed in an irrevocable conservation easement. Therefore, as proposed in conditions, the project complies with the applicable ESHA policies. The project also requires a coastal development permit for development on slopes in excess of 25%. This particular slide now shows the county GIS layer for slopes in excess of 25%, and also a bright blue line around the roughly the parcel area. The application plan set includes on sheet C1 a breakdown of slopes in relation to the proposed development. As shown on the screen now, the sloped areas of 25% or more are avoided by design of the proposed residence and driveway. The best location for the septic system's leach field and the existing location of the well that will serve the project for all water necessitate limited trenching on slopes. So this is the area that connects down to the square of the trench of the leach field, and the area that is slopes in excess of 25% is shown in the darker gray. Staff estimates the trenching will sum to approximately 350 square feet. That would be for the trenching for the water lines, shown with an arrow of green, and the trenching for the septic system, shown with an arrow of blue. This is the minimum required for the project and requires a coastal development permit. The project elevations and flagging for the project's water tanks are shown on this slide, and that's because we are thinking about this as a visually sensitive area. Height is minimized by the use of the split level architecture. The proposed main structure would have a height of approximately 21 feet 7 inches from average natural grade. That is within the limits of the RDR zoning. The guest house would have a maximum height of approximately 11 feet and 10.5 from average natural grade. The attached garage and workshop would have heights of approximately 8 feet from average natural grade. So all height maximums are well met. The property is within the viewshed from Elkhorn Slough, a visually sensitive area by the North County Land Use Plan, or LUP. The project was staked and flagged prior to a viewshed impact assessment by staff on May 7, 2024. Views in the direction of the project from Elkhorn Road, Highway 1, and most trailheads are interrupted by forest and topography, and there are no impacts. Staff determined potential for public viewshed impact from the trail along the east side of the slough, and that's a trail north of Kirby Park, due to the staff's ability to see the staking and flagging of the main dwelling. So staff is now dropping in, an arrow, and there's also a little bit of orange highlight to show the line of the top line of the main residence staking and flagging that was just a peak available to be seen from that trail. The project proposes moss green painted horizontal board and batten body and earth tone trim and windows. Therefore, the distance, combined with the muted natural colors and materials, avoids negative visual impacts from Elkhorn Slough. A draft mitigated negative declaration, or MND, for PLN 220229 was prepared in accordance with California Environmental Quality Act. The document reflects the independent judgment of the county. All pertinent issues were analyzed in the MND. Potentially significant impacts were identified, and 11 mitigation measures were recommended. County sent out tribal notifications on January 25, 2024, and as a result, county consulted with a representative of one tribe. Although the archaeological report for the project was negative for resources, the consultation resulted in the suggestion that resources could be present. One mitigation measure ensures that potential tribal cultural resources that might be encountered during trenching of the area of the lot that is high archaeological resource sensitivity are not mishandled or destroyed during excavation through the presence of one tribal cultural monitor. The rest of the mitigation measures ensure avoidance of biological resources. The MND demonstrates that the mitigation measures and conditions of approval effectively address all project issues and will mitigate all potentially significant impacts to a level of less than significant. During public draft review from May 7 to June 6, 2025, 2 comments letters were received. They are attached to the staff report as Exhibit F. The Geologic Energy Management Division of the California Department of Conservation sent a standard letter alerting the property owners of all parcels described in PLN 240187, which was also analyzed in the initial study, that they reviewed the parcels for the presence of oil, gas, and geothermal wells in the area of the proposed development. The letter concludes that no wells were found present. Norman Bocconi, the applicant, sent comments on the initial study to share his view of the history of the project, to correct for the record 2 misstatements he found in the body of the initial study, and to request some minor clarification on 2 mitigations proposed in the MND. Staff presented the comments in the staff cover report with staff responses. Staff found one of the comments would be best handled with an errata edit to mitigation measure TR1, and as it is very minor, it is within the project mitigation monitoring and reporting plan. The changes to this statement, as shown on the slide, and the underscore of EG daily log was added. And this is a minor change made in response to the comment, which does not involve new significant effects. It just clarifies what type of daily monitoring reports would be expected from the monitor. And recirculation is not required pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15073.5. The project was referred to the North County LUAC, Land Use Advisory Committee. It was reviewed on November 1st, 2023, and the LUAC voted unanimously to recommend approval, 6 ayes, 0 noes, and 1 absent. 1 public comment was received questioning consistency with visual and ESHA protection policies, which was addressed by the applicant in the hearing. And after the LUAC, the applicants reduced the height and pitch of the roof of the main dwelling, updated colors and materials to muted natural colors, and also pursued the lot line adjustment that will be discussed shortly as PLN 240187 to reduce impacts to oak woodland and slopes. So we have discussed process issues all morning, and one of the process issues that we now have before us is we have a project that relies on a lot line adjustment that is yet to be reviewed. And so staff considered this and added condition number 28, ensure access to parcel, so that should there be a possibility that the lot line adjustment is not approved or not pursued, that appropriate legal mechanism to ensure access to the parcel shall be implemented. And that would also potentially mean if they don't get their lot line adjustment that they might have to come back with a redesign, which would be amendment to this permit if they're adding a longer driveway that would add impact to slopes and trees. Staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a MND, approve the project, including adopting and mitigated negative declaration with its condition compliance and mitigation monitoring reporting plan, and approve this combined development permit for the new residence with guest house, attached workshop and garage, and the 3 coastal development permits to allow development within 100 feet of ESHA, allow the removal of 17 coast live oak trees, including 1 landmark tree, and to allow development on slopes in excess of 25%, summing to 350 square feet. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available for any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, for the report. Oh, excuse me. With that, we bring it back to the commission for any questions, comments, concerns. Seeing none, then, oh, sorry. Commissioner Hartzell.
Small one. I saw that there was a deed restriction and a donation to the Elkhorn Slough Foundation. I just wanted to clarify how many acres, and is it the same with the deed restriction and the donation?
Through the chair, the donation of land is really the lot line adjustment. It's not part of this project. It's mentioned as part of the overall environmental balance that the applicants are seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And the conservation and scenic easement would be set in consultation with the biologist to encompass as much of the highest value habitat area, and that kind of goes at the same time with the restoration plan for oak woodland and for the grasslands that would serve the California red-legged frog in the highest. Okay. So, roughly 3-to-1 impact to the impact of the overall construction footprint.
I'm going to hold my questions until we get there.
Okay, any other commissioners? With that, I will open the public hearing, and this would be the time for the owner or the agent to come to the podium if they would wish to make any comments or presentations. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carol Rewe, R-I-E-W-E. I'm the architect for the project. And I just wanted to say that we have spent a great deal of time citing the project appropriately on areas that didn't have any trees that we were going to lose. Originally, we had difficulty reaching an agreement for an upper driveway access, and we proposed a lower access that was coming from the road below on much steeper sides, and resulted in much more tree removal. And that would be our only option if the lot line adjustment isn't approved. After another year of negotiating and donating land to the Elkhorn Slough Foundation, we all reached an agreement and were able to design an access road up from the upper portion of the lot, which is much more environmentally friendly. And the siting of the project and the way that it steps down is not ostentatious, and I think we've done a really good job of putting the environment first here. Do you have any questions? That's all.
Any questions from the commissioners? Thank you. There are no questions.
Morning. Yeah, I just wanted to mention when we started this project.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Sorry, Norman Baconi, one of the owners. I just want to mention when we started this project, the first thing we did was to hire environmental consultants, talk to California Department of Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We also met with Elkhorn Slough Foundation as the neighbors to figure out exactly the environmental situation of our property. And when we did the design, we did it based on the environment. We did not start with a plan of a house and then look to where we put it. We looked at the environment and then looked to where we set the house. As mentioned, we'll do the LLA later. Well, we did donate the 5 acres, the original. Before we had the LLA, the 3-to-1 would have been about an acre that we would have needed to put in. The biologist suggested 2¼ acres. We chose for 5 because we were thinking that would resolve any scenic easement or any other concerns that people would have. Same thing with the trees. Trees are like a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 for landscape or for landmark trees. Original, we would have had to do about 33. This new situation would be 21. We're actually doing 54. We've already started the process. So 7 years we're doing. I know the last one was 1 year, but we're choosing 7 years for the trees and 7 years for the plants. That's all I have.
Any questions from commissioners? Thank you very much for your presentation. With that, is anybody else in the chambers that would like to address this particular item? Seeing none, is there anybody in Zoom or any emails that are addressing or would like to address this particular item?
There are no additional emails and no additional hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. Bring it back to the staff. Any comments, clarifications?
No.
No?
Gonzalez, thank you.
Thank you. With that, bring it back to the commission for questions, comments, concerns, motions. Commissioner Mendoza?
I'd like to make a motion to approve PLN 2202229.
Commissioner Mendoza has made the motion and seconded by Commissioner Shaw. Any other, Commissioner Deal?
Thank you. I just want to say that I found this to be a kind of refreshing and exemplary project, and both on the part of the applicant and the part of staff, I really appreciated the summary in the report. I do have one minor suggestion or request, which is that on condition number 14, which is page 43 of my packet, for every easement that we get, can we just ask that they include a very simple and clear sentence at the beginning saying this conservation easement shall be conveyed in order to protect sensitive resources or in order to protect scenic resources. Too often, 20 years later, we go back and you say, what is the easement meant to do? And we get into the technicalities before we get that general statement. So if we could just say, this easement is in order to protect sensitive environmental resources or something like that, I think it will help future generations. But other than that, I think it's a fine project, and I'm pleased to hear about it.
Okay, any other comments? If not, then all those in favor of the motion so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. We move on to, I'm assuming item number 2? Okay. We're going back to agenda item number 2, and that's PLN 240187, Baconi Norman and Victoria E. Agel Co-TRS and Elkhorn Slough Foundation. So with that, we can go ahead and begin the presentation on this particular item.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez. I am Mary Israel, and I am presenting as project planner for PLN 240187. This is the project located at 827 Elkhorn Road, 695 Elkhorn Road, and a third parcel without assigned address. And the APNs are listed on this slide, 181-151-009, 181-011-022, and 181-151-008. I'm pointing them out now to show which ones have which zoning district. So the first one has 10-acre density, the second one has 40-acre density, the third has 5-acre density, respectively. The proposed project is a lot line adjustment, or LLA, among three legal lots of record consisting of parcel A, currently 18.17 acres in size, will gain 0.48 acres from parcel C, and it will transfer 1.03 acres to parcel C, and it will also transfer 4.09 acres to parcel B. Adjusted parcel A will be 13.53 acres. Adjusted parcel B will be 290.14 acres. Adjusted parcel C will be 5.13 acres. The purpose of this LLA is threefold. The owners of parcel A approached the Elkhorn Slough Foundation, or ESF, owners of both parcels B and C, to adjust parcel C's boundaries to accommodate construction of a shorter driveway to their proposed residence on the subject parcel for PLN 220229. That is accomplished by parcel A receiving that approximate half acre of land. ESF wanted to see stronger conservation of land on parcel A than a conservation scenic easement for the development discussed in PLN 220229, and they achieved this together through this agreement to transfer the 4 acres of Parcel A to Parcel B, part of the historic Blom Ranch, which was granted to ESF by the Nature Conservancy in 2012, with a covenant that resource protection and enhancement must take place there. The second adjustment to Parcel C will be discussed in the next slide. The LLA is consistent with Title 19 in that it involves only 3 parcels, does not create new parcels, and the resulting lots are consistent with the general plan, the North County Land Use Plan, and Title 20 Development Density and Building Site requirements. Parcel B is developed with a single-family dwelling, and parcels A and C are vacant at the time of this hearing. No changes in residential use are proposed. LUP resource management policies require a review of all development for potential impacts of public viewsheds as for their development and road building on slopes. During site visits on May 7th, 2024 and June 18th, 2025, staff assessed the potential viewshed impacts of the shorter driveway area that would result of the lot line adjustment as viewed from Elkhorn Slough Road, Highway 1, and nearby trail and trailheads on the Elkhorn Slough. The area related to development that is proposed for exchange in this LLA is not within these viewsheds due to topography, vegetation, and distance. After the LLA, all structures allowed by PLN 220229 would still comply with the required setbacks in adjusted Parcel A. Adjusted Parcel A would be 13.53 acres, still over the 10-acre minimum for its zoning district, and the lot coverage would still be under the maximum. So Parcel C is currently only 4.58 acres, as shown in yellow. It's therefore non-conforming to minimum building site acreage of 5 acres. With the implementation of the lot line adjustment and Parcel A then taking about half an acre away, this would further it into non-conformity with its zoning code. So the applicant agreed to also move some of its Parcel A over to Parcel C to bring it up above the 5-acre minimum, which is now met at 5.13 acres. So Parcel B, owned by ESF, would be as adjusted Parcel B, 290.14 acres, will continue to be much larger than the minimum 40-acre lot size for its zoning district, and all of its setbacks are met. Therefore, this LLA is consistent with applicable county codes and the LUP. The draft mitigated negative declaration, MND, was prepared for this project and the related project PLN 220229. In accordance with California Environmental Quality Act, pertinent issues relating to all aspects of the actions of the site, including both projects, were analyzed in the MND. During public draft circulation, no comments were received that raised concern with the environmental impact of the LLA, and we just had the presentation discussing the letters that did come in as comments on that MND. The MND was just adopted with PLN 220229 on June 25th, 2025, with 11 mitigation measures applied to that project. No structural development is considered under this project, and all development was permitted under the other one this morning. This is a transfer of lands. No environmental review is warranted. No further environmental review is warranted pursuant to CEQA Guidelines, Section 15162. This project was referred to the North County LUAC because it involved the preparation of environmental document. The project was reviewed at the November 20th, 2024 meeting, and the LUAC voted unanimously to recommend approval, 7 ayes, 0 noes, and 2 absent. Staff recommends the Planning Commission consider the previously adopted MND and find that no further environmental review is warranted, and approve this lot line adjustment between 3 legal lots of record consisting of APNs 181-151-009, 181-011-022, and 181-151-008, resulting in 3 parcels of 13.53 acres, adjusted Parcel A, 290.14 acres, adjusted Parcel B, and 5.13 acres, adjusted Parcel C. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Then we bring it back to the commission for any comments, questions, clarifications. Seeing no one, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. So will the owner or agent of this particular item, if you wish to make any comments, this would be the time to do it. So please, if you do, state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, Norman Baconi again. Just want to mention when we started this project, as I said, we got the consultants. We figured out at one point that the best way would be to get it's about 30 foot of driveway that we needed as an easement through the property that was Elkhorn Slough. At that time, the agreement did not work out, so we ended up actually getting an easement from a different neighbor. We had our project very close to be submitted for the IS, but at that time we were able to get the agreement with Elkhorn Slough, so we ended up postponing our project, I don't know, 6 or 8 months or something, and redoing all of our paperwork for this to get this lot line adjustment to save some trees and grading. And I think it works out well. As far as I can tell, everyone is pleased with it. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Hartzell?
My question on the last, when I asked about the deed restriction versus the donation, it was in response to a comment you had made and that I saw listed in the last item about the way they interrelated. And I just wanted to check in and see, did the donation and the deed restriction cover everything that was required for both projects and kind of resolve your question about whether one was more restrictive?
Through the chair, I think that the 5 acres that we put in should have covered the deed restriction. Mm-hmm. Our planner, Mary, mentioned that there's a rule or something that you have to put in an easement restriction, so we're going with it.
Okay.
Like I say, I think it's actually a negative. I think that it gives a sign that doing a donation can be a negative, because now it's like, okay, you have to do this again, but it is what it is.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, thank you very much. With that, is there anybody in the chambers that would like to address the commission on this particular item? Seeing none, do we have anybody on Zoom or through any emails that would like to address the commission on PLN 240187?
There are no additional emails or any hands up on Zoom.
Thank you. With that, staff, any other comments?
No, Chair Gonzalez, staff is.
Thank you. With that, we bring it back to the commission for any questions, comments, clarifications, motions. Commissioner Shaw makes a motion.
Sure, thank you.
To accept the recommendation of the staff. Commissioner Mendoza seconds that motion. Any other questions, comments, clarifications? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries 8-0. And so that was that particular item. And is staff ready to continue?
Can I just thank the chair for changing the order of those two? It really helped me.
It wasn't my idea, but it was a recommendation from Madam Secretary.
Well, through the chair, I would also like to thank you for saying all the stuff that I would have trouble articulating. in the motion, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But that's why we have great advice and great history. Thank you. Is staff ready to continue with the item that we trailed, or do we need time?
Need a break.
We
Just
need a
if we
break?
could take a short break and give them 10 minutes.
Okay, we'll take about a 10-minute.
We could do department report if you'd like. Come back, it's up to you.
Oh, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and do the department reports at this particular time. Thank you. Great advice.
Thank you, Chair. We'll continue the meeting while giving staff just a little bit more time on that item number 1. Just a couple of department updates that I wanted to make. I wanted to inform the Planning Commission as well as the public that may be listening that we just finished up a 7-day public review of our second submittal draft of our housing element 6-cycle update. That review period was June 12th through June 17th. The full draft can be found on the county's webpage, which is, you can get to it through the www.countyofmonterey.gov/general plan updates, and you can select housing element under there. We welcome comments to continue, but at this time, our team is preparing for submittal for the second 60-day review by California State Housing Community Development, which will include the comments that we did receive during that 7-day public comment. So please know that's moving forward, and we're very happy to be at that point. Another item for anyone here on this commission who may know folks or themselves have interest, or anyone in the public listening, we do have an assistant planner recruitment that has just opened this week. It's a 30-day open recruitment. We would love to add a couple more fantastic assistant planners to our team, which has been doing a great job. So please, if you do know anyone, feel free to forward that far and wide. We're really looking forward to getting some of those vacancies filled. Just a couple of Board of Supervisor updates for you all that I wanted to flag. So on June 17th, the board did approve the Harper Canyon subdivision project that went forward. So I believe there were some articles that were in the paper. I think I saw something in the weekly. So if you want some more information, it's there. But just noting that that project has moved forward and been approved. 2 projects that had come here before the Planning Commission have been appealed and have upcoming hearings at the board for those appeals. One was PLN 210061 Johnson. That was the house that was on the in Carmel Highlands, right on the cliff area. That Johnson project received an appeal and is tentative scheduled for July 1st to go to the board on appeal. The other project, PLN 240077, which was the Signal Hill project, also received an appeal, and that is tentatively scheduled for July 8th to come back to the board. And then just to note that the board, July 8th is the last board meeting in July. The board is taking approximately 3 weeks off, and then they'll be back to business in August. With that, I'm happy if there's any questions, comments, or staff, if there's anything I missed. Let me check my teams in case sometimes I get other. Oh, I did want to correct. I misstated the 7-day review period ended on the 19th, not the 17th. I got my 7s and 9s confused. But it has closed subsequent. But again, folks can always submit comments and questions to us. Thank you.
Do we need a little, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Through the chair, 10 minutes would be great. Thank you.
10 minutes. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and at that time, we'll check to see if we need an additional 5 minutes. So at this point, we have a 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start in about a minute so we can get ready. Okay, we'll start in about 30 seconds. Just to make sure we get things going here. Ten, nine. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting, and just for the record, all commissioners that were here at the beginning of the meeting are present. So with that, we're going to go ahead and continue with the trailed item at this particular time, and that is item number PLN 240178, Sahi Navneet Singh. Staff, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you please share staff or HDMI? Thank you. So for the Commission's consideration, staff has made modifications to finding number 5. I am happy to read them aloud or just share them for you to read independently.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification, sorry. I'm not seeing what has been changed.
Sorry. I think there were substantial changes made,
Oh,
so this is
okay.
the final text.
If you'll leave it redlined, for me, I don't know if anybody else. Thank you.
You'd start at the top, maybe, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, the finding itself isn't changed. The finding still says siting, location, size, and design, and that's the part I objected to. So we need another wording that reflects what we're doing that doesn't refer to a project, I think, and then the evidence can follow along behind. Personal opinion there, but yeah.
So do you have any terminology that would help? I'm not sure, Commissioner Deal, or I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Just asking. You don't have to, but
I'm leaving it to the prose as much as possible, but it needs to say something in order to develop a single-family residence on this lot. Minimum tree removal is limited to X or something, just something like that. Yeah, I mean.
Through the chair,
Yes.
would it be possible to subject property with residential structures in conformity with the, what's the correct phrase? HOA? Neighborhood? Development? One of those.
There we go. No is the max. Okay. Can I? Thank you. Maybe I'm just.
Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you. Maybe I'm completely off. Maybe I'm nitpicking. It's not actual 53 trees. Like technically, they could cut down less to develop the property. So I don't know that should be in there. It's necessary to remove those to develop it because it's necessary for the design that we saw that we're not supposed to be looking at.
But I think the maximum allowed, I don't know, the maximum allowed isn't necessarily that those are the trees that are going to be removed. It just says 53 trees are the maximum allowed. To me, I interpret it as you don't have to do 53. I don't know. Commissioner Roberts?
I think for me, it would be important to say, given the site constraints, building envelope and homeowner association or whoever it is requiring the 3,500 minimum lots or residential living space.
I would maybe encourage the commission to consider like more general language of applicable development standards so that it's not clearly tying to an HOA.
I'm fine with whatever is required, but for me personally, the fact that they can't build a 1,000 square foot home, that's all I'm trying to get to. This lot, I think that's a constraint that I guess maybe that's a question. In my limited understanding, this is almost a deed restriction that he has to build bigger than. And we approved this lot in 1999 or whatever, knowing that a 3,500 square foot home would be required.
Commissioner Deal.
Should probably let Commissioner Monsalve answer, but my point is that nothing that the HOA says or does with respect to development standards is us. we could approve a house for 1,000 square feet. They would then have to deal with their HOA about that restriction. And when we do a subdivision, the HOA standards about house size, I don't think are part of that consideration because we don't enforce those. So if it's consistent with our development standards, as Ms. Jensen has proposed, that's our ground to stand on.
Commissioner Monsalve.
Thank you. It's my understanding that the project 30-something years ago would not have been approved, or it included that requirement of a minimum 3,500. So the county was on board with that way back then. So the county agreed with the 3,500 minimum, and the county agreed with the location of the footprint. And now what we are saying is a maximum of 53 trees. I'm not comfortable with the language saying 53 trees is the minimum necessary.
It changed.
I see minimum on the screen.
Commissioner Shaw?
Through the chair. So it did get changed, and I take issue with the same where it says 53 trees is the minimum necessary, because that it is not the minimum necessary, because a lot of those trees are in the driveway, in the pool, and the decking. So, I mean, if we wanted to get really technical, we could count the trees. It's a lot less that's necessary to build a residential structure. So I would not want to see minimum necessary, maybe maximum necessary. I don't know how we reference the maximum number of trees because it's tied into this design.
So if I may, and I'll let staff. So one thing, the commission, we are required to make a finding that it is the minimum necessary in the circumstances. How we do that so that we set a cap, so the finding does have to make that. What we're trying to do is make sure that you can't do more than those, but that's a reasonable amount given all the constraints on this site. Would it be, I think one question I have, because prior to taking the break, I think where staff understood it landed was that we were going to say 53, recognizing 3 landmark trees, not get into the over specifics, but write a condition such that needs to be consistent. So that's what staff is struggling with. If those are the 2 goals, we do need to have it state minimum necessary to make that finding. And I think it's bolstering up, to be clear, the 53 trees is the maximum that they could take. I don't know. I think it's hard to say. We either need to be okay with 53 trees, knowing that the hope is anything they do could be less than that, but not more, but still say it's reasonable that 53 would be the minimum in order to make the finding.
Commissioner Deal?
Okay, I think actually the finding is fine. I'm fine with it the way it is now. I think that was really good work. As we go down, we need to continue to carry it through, I think, though. So up, back. So if we say the project includes an application for the removal of up to 54 trees, I think it should just say a removal for up to 53 protected trees. And we don't have to say whether they're pines or oaks or anything because we just don't know at this point. And in accordance with so that's good there, right? And then at some point, we'd like to say that no more than 3 are landmark trees and none of which will be scenic trees. Because that way they can mix and match however they want.
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you please repeat that last sentence?
Just saying up to 53 protected trees, no more than 3 of which shall be landmark trees and none of which shall be scenic trees. I think that reflects the test case we were looking at with the project. and none of which shall be scenic trees.
May I ask a clarifying question, Chair?
Commissioner Hartzell?
Commissioner Deal, is a scenic tree a tree in a scenic easement, or is this a definition that I need to study?
Through the chair, unknown to me, but it's referenced in the findings, so carrying it forward.
Any other? Commissioner Work?
Yeah, I was curious, the trees we're talking about are only in the envelope, correct? How many landmark trees are on the parcel? Is that in the tree report? I can look, but I'm just saying, we're only talking about the building envelope trees.
Correct.
So there could be 10 landmark trees on the parcel. Okay, so I'm still good with.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Gonzalez? Yes, I yes, Mr. Chair. No, I just have to say that, you know, in terms of the information and some of the knowledge that was shared, you know, 30 years ago, these trees would not have been landmark trees, and there are probably a lot more trees there now that they were then, and most likely it's probably a bigger fire issue now than it was back in the day. Well, I guess I was old enough, but anyways, I just think that this is important information for me because, and I wouldn't see, you know, the terminology is good, but, you know, I maybe in the future we shouldn't, especially like what Commissioner Deal mentioned and Mr. Don Chapin, that there were those discussions that in the future, back then, that there were going to be trees that were going to be removed because they had to be removed. At that time, there were probably a lot less trees and a lot less trees that were landmark trees. But at this time, I think we just, you know, need to look at that. I wasn't even looking at that, but at least I was, well, I was educated on that. So any other commissioners, Commissioner Hartzell?
Just in response to that, over 30 years, animals and other species move into big trees. And that's why we look at the trees as they are now, because we're taking somebody else's home. So I just, to counterbalance the kind of historical perspective, we also have habitat.
Yes, thank you.
I have one more question through the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Wirt?
How big is the total parcel? It's 25 acres?
It's 5 acres.
5 acre total, and the development is on, the footprint is how big?
The overall footprint is.
Or no, the envelope, I'm sorry, the building envelope.
Give me 1 second to pull up the plans and just make sure I have the right number.
While we're waiting, are there any other comments from Commissioner Roberts?
I have one more question, and I was going to go back to the original findings and evidence, but haven't had a chance to look at. I just want to make sure we are removing very specific language related to any potential plans, but I want to make sure we haven't undone the arborist report and the requirements that the arborist has, or the findings that this arborist has made, or I guess, sorry, that's kind of confusing, but I also want to make sure that we're still consistent with the arborist report.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Staff?
So through the chair, the evidence C has been revamped to capture kind of the discussion that's occurred in this hearing, including the building envelopes that trees have grown since recordation of the final map, constraints including HOA requirements, county requirements being set back in lot coverage, as well as being provided with draft plans for a future single-family dwelling and an arborist report to assist in determining what would be the minimum necessary to meet the various standards and restrictions of the property.
Okay. Any other comments, concerns, questions, or anything from staff? Commissioner Deal?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent job, and would just say I would also like to ask staff to go back through the other, just to see if there's any minor changes that would be needed to bring any other findings and evidence or conditions into conformance with that statement, which I believe to be substantially what we talked about.
Through the chair, yes, other minor modifications were made, clarifying that planning staff will review the final construction plans to ensure that it does not exceed 53 protected trees, and efforts will be made to retain trees as feasible. Conditions of approval have been applied to ensure that tree removal doesn't occur prior to issuance of any construction permits, and that raptor and bird nesting surveys will occur. And then also language has been updated throughout to reference up to 53 trees to not authorize strictly 53 trees. And then the Land Use Advisory Committee evidence has been clarified to reflect that it did not warrant referral. There you go.
Okay. If memory serves me right, which it might not, Commissioner Shaw make the motion? No? Oh, Commissioner? Somebody. There's already a motion and a second. Okay, thank you. Sorry. I guess it didn't serve me correct. But any other comments? All those in favor of the motion, so indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 8-0. And I guess there's nothing else in the agenda. So with that, this meeting is now adjourned.